The story is set in a future in Miami, Florida, where the devastating impacts climate change has caused inescapable flooding and scorching temperatures. The city has turned into a shadow for its former self, with a large number of its occupants forced to direct their businesses and different activities around evening time because of the agonizing heat. Poverty is uncontrolled, and a portion of the occupants are compelled to live in improvised ghettos or even boats. In this grim and discouraging climate, people are frantically clutching memories of happier times. Nick and Emily, both ex-soldiers, have set up a unique business called Reminiscence Tank. This service permits people to remember their fondest memories, utilizing a mix of tranquilizers and state-of-the technology. Nick might envision and share their memories in a holographic form, making the experience more strange. Next, Nick's colleague from the military, Hank, who is utilizing the Reminiscence service. Nick takes him to a bright day 13 years prior when he was playing with his cherished pet dog. As Hank remembers this appreciated memory, Nick depicts the vibe of reminiscence as a strong medication that permits people to reconnect with their friends and family and remember the most snapshots of their lives, notwithstanding. Nick additionally cautions that unreasonable guilty pleasure in these memories can prompt a risky habit, catching people in their past and robbing them of the present. At long last, Nick uncovers that each memory experienced by the clients through the Reminiscence Tank is put away on little flash drives, further featuring the potential dangers related with this service. Later around evening time, as Nick and Emily are going to close their business for the afternoon, a stroll-in client named May requests help in finding her missing keys. When Nick sees May, he is quickly drawn to her, and notwithstanding Emily referencing that it's too late, he chooses to help. Wasting no time, he outfits her with the machine and inundates her in a memory of her morning schedule. While May is handling her memory, Nick notices it. What's more, sees itemized things in her room. Emily lets him know that May put the keys in her bag and dropped them in the changing area. In spite of this, Nick goes on with the memory and discovers that May is a nightclub singer. After the meeting is finished, May leaves, however accidentally leaves her earrings. The following evening, Nick visits a similar nightclub from May's memory with the sole motivation behind returning her earrings. After May ends her performance, he moves toward her and the two have a little talk. When he returns her earrings, all of a sudden, May demands him to escort her to her apartment. Nick, who at his point has become confounded by her beauty, concurs without reconsidering. Furthermore, when the two arrive at home, they make energetic love. After their personal experience, Nick and May have a lovely discussion on the housetop. May questions why Nick doesn't utilize the memory tank more regularly, to which the last explains that memories are better in little doses. Abruptly, it is uncovered that Nick has been in the Reminiscence Tank this entire time, pondering. May, everything was just his creative mind. Emily attempts to get him out of the tank, yet Nick basically can't stop contemplating his beauty girl. It turns out May strangely vanished a couple of months back, and presently, Nick is attempting to sort out her whereabouts by utilizing the Reminiscence Tank again and again. He often visits the club where she used to work and asks her friends for hints, without much of any result. When nothing works, Nick takes a narcotic and returns to his memories of May. Once, he awakens to an uproarious knocking on his front door. Baffled and drowsy, Nick furiously shouts at the person on the opposite side prior to stomping out to confront them. But when he opens the door, he sees there's nobody there, just a couple of earrings lying on the ground. Nick understands that the earrings belong his ex May, and enlightens Emily, since she ignored it, saying that the earrings might have been there for some time. Afterward, the two visit the police station to remove memories from a dying criminal named Miles. Nick, struggling to get any valuable info until he changes his methodology and finds a discussion between Miles' boss, St. Joe, and a bad cop named Cyrus Booth. They are at a nightclub and, shockingly, May is likewise there, singing. She appears of being high on something. As the memory advances, Nick becomes acquainted with that May took a bag of narcotics from St. Joe and took off. The next day, Nick goes to New Orleans and gains section to St. Joe's club using a fake name. Tragically, Joe sees through his falsehoods and orders his men to thrash him. When Nick at long last admits that he's here to find May, that's what Joe uncovers: he hasn't seen her since she took from him. He then orders his henchmen to suffocate Nick. Things look extremely depressing for our hero, however right then, Emily shows up out of the blue and starts fighting the folks. Regardless of being dwarfed, she executes each and every one of them with her exact shots and makes all the difference. After they arrive at Miami, Nick says that he finds the entire circumstance odd. He accepts May was just playing with him and that she probably taken something from them. Emily believes he's being distrustful, yet Nick helps her to remember the last time she met with May. He then asks that she get into the Reminiscence Tank to explore the matter further. In the memory, we are shown that before May evaporated, she stayed with Emily, holding a jug of wine. The two discussion about a great deal of things, including their connections and families. May likewise admits that she is a hardcore narcotic junkie. Afterward, when Emily goes to the washroom, May clandestinely enters the memory vault and takes a memory chip. In the present, when Emily exits the tank, She attempts to protect herself for concealing May's medication addiction, but Nick doesn't give a lot of weight to it and hurries to the memory vault. Subsequent to looking for some time, he discovers that the memory chip of a young lady, Elsa Karina, is missing. It turns out Elsa was a standard client, who likewise disappeared a little while back. The following day, Nick goes to a drifting market sector, looking for Elsa, however discovers that she is dead. Besides, her youngster, Freddy, was abducted by a red-headed lady, coordinating May's appearance. The disclosure shocks Nick, and he starts to contemplate whether May was a criminal. In spite of this, he keeps looking for her, until a person corners him inside an abandoned house and thumps him. He takes steps to kill Nick the following time if he doesn't disregard May. After the assault, Nick gets back to his office and quickly rewatches his memory to look for info. On a nearer investigation, he finds that the attacker is a similar corrupt cop, Cyrus, who worked for St. Joe. To figure out more about it, Nick and Emily rush to the police station. However, they are come by a mini group gathered outside. It turns the most affluent businessman around, Sylvan, has as of late died at present. His bereaved wife, Tamara, and their child, Sebastian, are being accompanied out. When Nick sees Tamara, he perceives her as a previous client of the reminiscence tank. Thus, he hurries to his office and starts playing her memory, where she is seen hitting the dance floor with her husband, Sylvan. Following this, he additionally plays the memory of Elsa, who is enjoying in her experience with her rich boyfriend. When Nick looks at the two clasps, he finds likenesses in the man's voice, which affirms that Elsa was engaging in extramarital relations with, in all honesty, Sylvan. Besides, Freddy was born due to their unlawful relationship. Subsequent to drawing an obvious conclusion, Nick finds that Sylvan's other child, Sebastian, hired Cyrus to kill Elsa and her child. The main purpose is that he wants to be the sole successor to his dad's fortune. Subsequent to learning of this, Nick chooses to make quick work of everything. So he leaves his office, conveying a gun. An irate Nick shows up at Tamara's house. She lives in the most extravagant place of Miami, where sumptuousness is as yet existent. Shockingly, Nick is confused with a called dancer to put on an act. However, he doesn't resist, as it very well may be his most obvious opportunity to get replies. Not adequately long, he meets Tamara and furiously gets some information about May and Elsa. Tamara, who has lost a ton of her memory because of depression, uncovers that May and Cyrus were cooperating on something. She additionally is by all accounts mindful that her husband was engaging in an affair with Elsa. Tragically, before Tamara can give more info, Sebastian shows up there and calls for security, believing that Nick is disturbing his mom. The guards in the long run toss him out, yet they additionally help him by uncovering Cyrus' area. It turns out even they are tired of the bad cop and need him dead. Subsequently, Nick goes to the said area and see a lady like May. He enthusiastically follows her, however winds up finding Cyrus, waiting for him. He is murmuring a melody, which helps Nick to remember his most memorable meeting with May. Cyrus then uncovers that Nick's meeting and associations with May were completely planned. Her main reason was to control Nick, utilize the reminiscence tank, and steal Elsa's chip, which contained memories of her doing it with Sylvan. Saying this, Cyrus escapes from a nearby window, and Nick likewise follows him. There, the two get into a tussle, which goes this way and that for some time. They fight in the scorching sun, and furthermore submerged. Eventually, our valiant hero arises victorious. He then takes Cyrus out, takes him to his office, and places him in the reminiscence tank. The bad cop's memories uncover that May's relationship with Nick was fabricated on obviously false. She really worked for Cyrus and pretended to be keen on Nick to complete the plan. She even met a significant number of his friends to learn further into him and gain his trust. The disclosure staggers Nick, as such a long time, he had trusted her to be his perfect partner. However, in another memory, it is shown that Cyrus was the person who killed Elsa. May saw all of this, so she quickly escaped to an obscure area with Freddy. When Nick asks about his last meeting with May, Cyrus recalls his memory furthermore, shows that he met her outside Nick's office when she was thumping on the door. He hauled her away from that point, and this is when May dropped one of her earrings. Nick indignantly asks how he treated her, and Cyrus attacked her. He additionally constrained her to uncover Freddy's area by overburdening her with narcotics. Shockingly, May appears on the visualization and addresses Nick through Cyrus' memories. She shows her affection for him while additionally alluding to where Freddy is stowing away. She generally realized that Nick would catch Cyrus, so that is the reason she had left a mystery message for him. Sadly, in the last memory, Nick gets to realize that May committed the incomprehensible when the strain turned out to be a lot for her. Crushed by her death, Nick chooses to get payback. He arranges Cyrus to remember his most horrendously awful second and power him to relive it over and over. The memory shows Cyrus' face being burnt by St. Joe's men as discipline for stealing profits. However, indeed, even this isn't enough for Nick, so he increases the voltage of Nick's terrifying memory and allows him to die in the water tank. Following this, Nick goes directly to Sylvan's home and faces Sebastian for killing Elsa for his dad's abundance. He additionally uncovers that he is familiar with his dad's affair with Elsa. Angered and stunned, Sebastian attempts to shoot Nick. However, regardless of his earnest attempts, he can't force himself to make it happen. Eventually, he directs the weapon back toward himself. Furthermore, plans to commit the inconceivable. Nonetheless, before things can get ridiculous, his mom shows up at the last possible second and calms him down. With the circumstance settled, Nick goes to see Emily and admits to his crimes, telling the whole story of May, Cyrus, and their tangled web of duplicity. He says life is short, so that is the reason Emily ought to return to her family and live with them. In his last minutes, Nick goes into the reminiscence tank, connect himself to the wires, also, prepares to begin the memory interaction on him. Not long, we see him remembering his memories with May, where the two admit their adoration for one another, prior to dying peacefully. Years after, Emily visits Nick at the reminiscence tank, with her little girl and leaves flowers for him. The film closes with the message that while living in the past can be perilous, remembering memories of all that times can be a method for discovering a true piece of harmony in the present. The end. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel and like it to motivate me to bring you more stories like this.